Eyes for Allah, nothing but Allah. Ba is the beginning of Bismillah. Ta is for taqwa, bewaring of Allah. And Tha is for thawab, a reward. Ja is for Jannah, the garden of paradise. Ha is for Hajj, the blessed pilgrimage. Kha is for Khatem, the seal of the prophethood given to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Da is for Deen, al-Islam, religion with Allah since time began. That is for dhikr, remembering Allah, and rise for the month of Ramadan. Oh, Ramadan. Za is for zakah, to cure our greed, when we give our money to those in need. Sa is for salamun alaykum, peace be with you, wa alaykum as-salam. Sha is for Shams, the shining sun, which Allah placed for everyone. And Sa is for Salah, for when we pray, facing Him every day.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers, I'm honored again to be with you tonight, inshallah, and talking about some very, very special and dear topic to myself. We are switching gears, but it has some relationship, inshallah, to our daily life, to the Quran and to the religion. It's an art that really attracted my attention since I was 6 years old, since I started my school. And an art that I have been living with all my life. To me, it's the most important art or the most important issue in my life. In fact, when I moved to the United States, I brought some of my medicine textbooks, but I brought all my calligraphy books and stuff. And you can see some of them here, inshallah. It's an art that I call it a very dear art that if you don't give it dedication and time, it doesn't let itself to you. So you really have to dedicate your time and effort. But if you learn it and love it, it's an amazing art. And this is Al-Khatt Al-Arabi, or the Arabic Calligraphy. And I was asked by Abu Abdullah and the brothers, Dr. Salman, to present this topic, since we are, inshallah, planning to have a course for 3 months to teach one of the styles of Arabic calligraphy, which is called Khatt al-Nasakh, and this is the most popular and most used calligraphy or style. I thought this will be an introduction to that, inshallah. Before going into this, Arabic calligraphy, it's a very noble way of expressing ourselves. Al-Kitaba has been described as ornamentations or special writings that will express or indicate the meaning of words, which is what the tongue is expressing of what the mind is thinking. Ibn Khaldun, we all know Ibn Khaldun, talking about calligraphy in his section. He said, إنه رسم وأشكال حرفية تدل على الكلمات. These are lines or diagrams that indicate the alphabetic indications of words al-masmu'a that we can say or we can hear. And it also indicates what's your soul or what's our mind is speaking. And he said, فهو ثاني رتبة في الدلالة اللغوية. It's the second important way of expressing language. وهو صناعة شريفة. It's a noble profession. And this, you have to underline this, is الكتابة من خواص الإنسان التي يتميز بها عن الحيوان. And that's true. يعني, it is writing that distinguish human being from any other creatures and animals. Somebody might say, well, talking, well, you can bring a parrot and teach him. Go on the internet, parrots are saying lots of things nowadays. But no animal can write. No animal can write. It's only a characteristic of human beings. So if you bring a creature who can write, this is a human being, cannot be any other thing else. And he has some other elaborations. And the most important event or the most important invention in the history of mankind is the invention of alphabet and the knowing of writing. Without it, probably we would have been like thousands of years ago. So the ulama consider this is the most important event happening to mankind. And without it, civilization and current inventions and life that we are living in wouldn't have been a reality. Man started improving on things when he started writing and documenting his thoughts and his history or his acts. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the earliest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-qalam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created al-qalam and ordered it to write everything that's going to happen from al-azal until the end of this life. And this is what was kept in al-lawh al-mahfuz. So al-qalam, the pen, was one of the earliest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has what we call karram al-qalam. The first surah, as we all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Iqra. Why Iqra? Because that's it. This is the end of, this is the era of science. No more miracles or issues that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he started his religion, science was declaration of the starting of science. So the first ayah was اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان معه اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم الذي علم بالقلم. Not only that, but Prophet Muhammad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swore with al-qalam in Surah Noon. Noon wal-qalami wa ma yasturun. We all know that. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, قيد العلم بالكتابة. Yeah, it means document science by writing it down. If you don't write it, it's gone. I'm sure there are lots of inventions that happened in the old days that got lost because it was not well documented. And Arabic calligraphy was one of any regular other calligraphy until it acquired a special characteristic from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed His final revelation, the holy book of Muslims, Al-Quran Al-Kareem, and it was written in Arabic, that really brought this handwriting from a certain level to a much higher level. It became a holy art, as I describe it. And Al-Khatt al-Arabi became associated with the religious feelings. So when people look at that art or that writing. Okay. We can talk about Al-Khatt al-Arabi until the end of the week. So the purpose of this gathering, inshallah, to be introductory and make it more fun by showing some slides and some namudaj. And I'm going to write a few things on that board, and there will be quiz at the end with some small gifts. So be awake. How did handwriting started? There are two main opinions. One opinion says it is it's not min sun' al-bashar. It's not an invention of human beings. It's amrun tawqifi min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed or taught His first human being, which is Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. And we all know the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. So some ulama said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught him all these different languages. And the story continues to say that they were written in a clay plates that was burned, so fixed, and it was hidden or buried in the ground. And then every nation came after Tufan, saying, whoever discovered whatever language spoke that language. Maybe. But there are other scientists who said that language is an invention of human beings. And the first person who wrote in Arabic language was Sayyidina Ishmael. Other people said, no, it's Sayyidina Idris. Other people said it's Sayyidina Sulaiman who wrote in Hebrew, because Hebrew and Arabic, they have same roots. But Sayyidina Ismail wrote in Al-Abriya. Ibn Abbas said, no, there are three people from Qabila, Rijal min Bolan, is a village where they got together and they got the alphabet together and they created or came up with the language. So there are different stories. Nobody knows where is the truth. It doesn't really matter to us. But I think language is, it could be what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taught Sayyidina Adam, because we don't see new languages. United Nations tried to invent a language from 7 letters a few years ago, but I never saw it really being commonly used. So whatever language we knew is the language that we were born and found around us. But again, languages do change, people do change things, and the history shows that the number of alphabet has changed, so maybe it's a combined thing, I don't know. Nobody knows where is the truth. Ibn Khaldun, though, again we go back to Ibn Khaldun, very famous Muslim historian, he said it is a creation of human beings. And in fact, the first handwriting started in Egypt. Yeah, that's the earliest documentation, even before China. And initially, that's all based on what people have discovered. And what the initial handwriting started with pictures that will symbolize or mean certain meanings. And then it was changed to symbols, and this was modified to dalalat or huruf, alphabet letters, which we can see it very clearly in the if you study the old Egyptian history. And there are again lots of opinions, but the one I really like or I think makes more sense to me is that from Egypt went to Al-Finiqiyin, close to Asham area. From that area got distributed to the Aramaic, and the Aramaic was passed through An-Nabatiyin, and from that Al-Khatt Al-Nabati, it was modified to Al-Khatt Al-Arabi, that was changed and modified and brought to its optimum style and shape over 2 decades, 2 centuries, sorry. And they said that most of it happened in the 3rd and 6th century, Gregorian century, Miladi. And after that, the next 200 years, it became to all these different styles. Where did, of course, there are other opinions said it came from Al-Himyariyin in Yemen, south. Some people said it came from Iraq, some people, but that's, again, there are lots of stories. You can read a whole book about that. Really, it's not going to change much now. Where did Al-Khatt Al-Arabi evolve after that? Again, it's a very controversial issue. Again, it's not going to add much to us. But if we go back to the Al-Khatt Al-Arabi, it's well known that the initial Khatt Al-Arabi was sort of what we call Khattun Murabba. Murabba means like angles. And this is the origin of what we call Al-Khatt Al-Kufi. Again, there are different names that was given to the different styles based on the city or based on certain, some people do some modification and they call it after certain city or certain person. But at the end, we will be talking about 6 or 7 main styles that are commonly used nowadays. And all the other ones are just subtypes. So inshallah, we are going to simplify it. So the first 2 types or styles of handwriting was the original one with angles, rigid, straight lines, and that's the original of what we call Al-Khatt Al-Kufi, and then I'm going to give you examples of that. And then people has modified it to make it sort of has some curves, and that's the origin of Khatt Al-Nasakh. Initially I thought that Khatt Al-Kufi started first, and then from that Khatt Al-Nasakh came, but some scientists said no, both of them started at the same time and they evolved. None of them evolved from the other one. The thing is that writing anyhow during that time before Islam and even the early years of Islam was not very popular. And you can count the people who can read and write during the time of the Quraysh or Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We all know that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never wrote or read anything, and that's also adds strength to him. And this is why Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because as I said, we are starting the era of science. He was promoting learning to both men and women. In the Ma'rakat Badr, we all know that those who are poor, prisoners of war, al-Asra, who could not release themselves by money, he asked them to teach 10 of the Muslim people to release themselves. And there are lots of hadith to promote writing and learning. And with the spread of Islam, this handwriting, the Arabic calligraphy, spread with that religion. So Islam was a reason for that to spread to all over the world, including China, areas of Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and then up north and all the way west to the Africa, so and the middle of Africa. So that handwriting, because it has now a religious sibgha, religious characteristic to it, Islam helped to spread al-Khatt al-Arabi. And it became really a very important craft to many people. And there has been, like if you study hadith, you study ruwa, there is also tasalsul of al-khattatin, the calligrapher so-and-so who was a student of so-and-so, who was student so-and-so. Who is one of the early calligraphers? One of the khulafa.
Uthman.
No. Karram Allahu wajhah, Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu anhu.
Oh.
Yeah, and he is the one who asked Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali, will talk about that. Because the initial handwriting, there was no dots and there was no harakat. But the Arabs knew their language, so by looking at that, he could read the thing. But when the Islam spread, دخل عليه العجمة واللحن. People whose Arabic language is a second language could not differentiate these things. So they started making mistakes. Then when they started putting harakat على الحروف during the time of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib عن طريق أبو الأسود الدؤلي بتوجيه من الإمام علي. And then, but again, there are letters that has, you don't know whether is this ya or ta or noon or ba, or this is ha or kha or jim. So what we call it al-i'jam is they started putting dots to differentiate these letters that are similar. And this was done على يد يحيى ibn Ya'mur al-Adwani, which he died the year of 90 Hijri. So that was the second stage. But Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali used sort of dots to make sort of the fatha, kasra and dhamma. Abu Ali, sit down, you'll make me noise. And then they came and added black dots to differentiate the letters. So now you have to write in different colors, and sometimes the dots are confusing. So during the Al-Abbasi time, Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad, and what is he famous for, Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad? This is very important name. He's the one who collected Buhur al-Sha'r, the 15. And he missed one, 16, which is called al-Mutadarak, which Sibawayh came after that. So in poetry, in Arabic poetry, there are 16 different, what we call, different lines that you can say poems. So Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad was famous. One night he made a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma, I ask you a science that hasn't been given to anybody in the past. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him to have Buhur al-Sha'r. He was a faqih and alim and everything. So Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad, and he was very zahid, insan zahid. His students would make money from his books and his work, and he doesn't make anything. He was living in a very small place, zahid in this dunya. So Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad came during the Abbasiyin and changed the harakat from dots to what we know nowadays, which is fatha, kasra, dhamma, and then tanween, all these things. So as we mentioned in the beginning, the starting of writing, how did it evolve? It's really not well documented in history. Why? Because it's not like a one event time. It's not like you discovered electricity on the day of so and so or the bulb light by Edison, or phonogram by Graham Bell, whatever. This is the history or the result of a product of a continuous, progressive additions of human mind to this type of khutut. So this is why you don't know when did this. It has been evolving over several years. I mean, hundreds of years. Al-Imam Ali used to promote and say, "Al-Khatt al-Hasan yazid al-Haqq wuduhan." A nice, clear handwriting will make a truth very clear. So you have to write in clear. And the handwriting reached its best level during الدولة الأيوبية, after الخلافة الراشدة. During الخلافة الراشدة and early Umayyin, they were busy spreading Islam and going to this country, and then there was they put some importance to that. They did promote, because people have to write and copy books and Al-Quran al-Kareem, and there are lots of people, but it started eventually during Al-Abbasiyin, Ayyubiyin, when it started to show the elegancy and the beauty of these different styles of handwriting. And again, when Islam went to Persia, Faris, and the Arabic alphabet replaced what we call the al-huruf al-fahlawiyya, which is the Persian alphabet. They came up with khatt al-farisi, khatt al-nasta'liq, or al-farisi, which is, we're going to also touch on that. There are different ways to improve handwriting, and again, this is not the place to it. Inshallah, if you join the course, we will talk about these things. And there are really famous calligraphers. The most famous calligraphers in this current century came from, give me a name, Nahidh. Abu Hassam. Britain? Turkey, yeah. Turkey, they are very nice. In fact, I have one of what we call amshaq, Hamid al-Amidi. I bought that for $75. Very good. And then Egypt. Yeah, Egypt. They have schools there for Al-Khatt al-Arabi. Schools, books written. I have lots of their books there. Yeah, no, not Hassan.
He was in the Khatt.
He was? Maybe. I didn't read about him. You know who's a famous calligrapher? The father of Najat al-Saghira, Saad Husni, a singer and an actress. Their father, a famous calligrapher. I have samples of his. And also Iraq, there were famous calligraphers. There are famous calligraphers, and in Syria as well. So these are the countries where there were really icons of calligraphy that really added really nice collection of pieces of art. One of the famous calligraphers during Al-Dawla al-Abbasiyya is, they call it the engineer, the kahuna engineer of calligraphy. And he's the one who put Khatt al-Nasakh in its optimum state, which we see it right now. And this is Al-Wazir. He was Al-Wazir, Abu Ali Muhammad ibn Muqla. And the reason I'm mentioning him, because this guy wrote the Quran twice with his hands. He was the Wazir of 3 Khulafa. And the last Khalifa, somebody did a wishaya. What's a wishaya in English? They tried to betray him or do some to get him out of the thing. And he was accused of not being a patriot person. So he was put in jail, his hand was cut and his tongue was cut. So he was crying. He died when he was 56 years old. He was crying and saying, the hand that wrote the Holy Quran to be cut like the hands of a thief. So he was crying at the end, and he died in jail, in fact. But he was one of the most famous calligraphers, really, in the history of Arabic calligraphy. Now, there are different styles. As I mentioned, for those people who came late, the Al-Khatt went through lots of evolution, and we're going to show examples. And these evolutions, every person who does some changes will call it Al-Rayhani, Al-Kufi, Al-Mish'arif Ish, Al-Qayrawani. So you will see lots of names, but they all eventually go into 6 or 7 main styles, which is Khatt al-Kufi, we mentioned that, Khatt al-Nasakh, and from Khatt al-Nasakh we have Khatt al-Thuluth, and then we have Khatt al-Farisi, and then we have Khatt al-Diwani, which is an invention of the Turks, and Khatt al-Ruq'a, which is the invention of the Turks. And then there is Khatt al-Ijaza or al-Tawqi', which is probably, I consider it one of Khatt al-Thuluth variations. So probably, I usually say there are six styles. Now, Al-Khatt al-Kufi is one of the oldest, Khatt al-Nasakh is the oldest, and Khatt al-Nasakh became the most popular hand writing. And Nasakh means to copy. This is why it's called Khatt al-Nasakh, because if you open any of these Qur'ans, except the ones written in the Pakistani style, this is Khatt al-Nasakh. Newspapers, Khatt al-Nasakh. It's still an elegant handwriting. And this is the one we are going to teach, inshallah, in the course. And then you have Khatt al-Thuluth. Khatt al-Thuluth, we call it Khatt al-Fakhama, the style, the elegant style, or the elegant calligraphy. And that's what you see in all these old historical places in Andalusia, in Spain, or if you go east in Afghanistan, Pakistan area, all these old mosques, most of them, they are written Khatt al-Thuluth, Khatt al-Fakhama, which you can make different tarakib, we call it. a complex collection. And we will show examples of that. And then we have خط الفارسي. خط الفارسي, I call it السهل الممتنع. الخط الفارسي السهل الممتنع because it looks easy and simple, but it's not easy to write it. And sometimes you have to have two tips. One is 1/3 the thickness of the other to be able to write خط الفارسي, which is invented by Persia, as we mentioned before. And then خط الديواني was the secret handwriting that was invented by the Turks in the Dawawin, which is the governmental handwriting. So people would recognize, this is an order from the Khalifa or from the king or from the. This is why called خط الديواني. And also after that we have خط الرقعة. Again, it's an invention. It is the simplest and fastest style, and many people can write. It's easy to use. And it's very easy to learn. So this is, as I said, the lecture is 3 parts. Now we're done with the theory part, and inshallah, maybe the guys who came later, they will have the fun part. So the first part, maybe some people were sleeping. Again, this is a summary. We mentioned before that the oldest handwriting, it also helps people who came late, started in Egypt. That's all based on whatever we found documented in history. And from there went to the Aramaics. And from the Aramaics, which is the language of, by the way, Aramaic language is the language of Jesus Christ, and the language of the original of the Bible. The Bible originally written in Aramaic. And if you attend the movie, The Passion of the Christ, those who speak Arabic, you will understand 70% of what he was saying in Aramaic. It's subtitled movie, but if you speak Arabic, I understood 70% of the words, which tells you that it's the origin of Arabic language. And then from Aramaic went to the An-Nabati. As I said, this is the most accepted theory that I would accept. And then from there, the Arabic calligraphy or handwriting came up, and we talked about how it started. And then it was modified throughout 2 centuries before we had it in its final styles. And as I said, Kufi and Nasikh are the oldest styles. Kufi nowadays is more of a engineering handwriting or geometric handwriting, because anybody can write Kufi, by the way. Anybody who has a ruler, who has some artistic, can write a handwriting, and I'll show you, because it depends on lines and angles. But for Nasikh and others, no, you have to learn the rules. So we have Nasikh, and from Nasikh, Thuluth came, they were going together. And then when the Persia was opened and replaced by, their alphabet was replaced by Arabic alphabet, they started the Farisi, or call it Ta'liq or Nastaliq, these are subdivisions. And then the Turks came up with the Diwani, and there are subdivisions, Jala Diwani, Rayhani, whatever, Ghuzlani. And then we have Khatt al-Ruq'a, which is, again, these are 2 new handouts. Okay. As we said, calligraphy, handwriting became an honorable profession throughout the history of Islamic empire. And the Quran has preserved and improved, because, you know, in Islam you cannot draw pictures of living or full living. Some people you can write part of the, but anyhow, we're not going to go through this. And this is why there are lots of artists. So this was really a way out to them to express their artistic capabilities. So it became not only an art, it became a holy art, because it was associated with the Holy Quran. And as we mentioned, it was the reason how calligraphy spread all over. Next. So I'm going to give you examples of my work. Of course, handwriting, if you I wrote a booklet on teaching Khatt al-Nasikh, and in that I wrote 5 conditions how to improve the handwriting. Just by knowing the measurements and the rules, that will improve your handwriting by 50%. Even if you are not an artist, if you have never even, by knowing, and I'll give you examples of that. Then the type of paper you use, the type of pen you use, and there are different types. The best one is what we call the bamboo. The bamboo, in fact, these are from Pakistan. These are the expensive ones. اللي هو البوس, exactly. And if you look, I have several ones here. Each one has different angle because each style has a different angle. So the angle of the pen makes a difference. It's wider angle when you write Diwani or Ruqa versus different than when you write Thuluth or Ruqa. And most of these you make them yourself. The only problem with these ones is you have to dip them in ink. You don't have continuity. So what we do, we usually female socks. That's secret. We put it in here and then you soak it with ink, so it doesn't get very wet. That's and this is how we. So if you really want to write something professional, or if you are doing, this is the best. It gives you really the best. Most of the amshaq here, which are booklet done by certain calligraphers, are done with these. But for practicality, we have calligraphy pens that are continuous with different sizes and different angles. They are made in Japan though, they're not made in a Muslim country. And then we have the markers. And the Sharpie markers, I found them, their angle is really good. You have to really pick up the angle. So when we do the course, there are one type we're gonna buy to help with that. The metal tips are okay, but unfortunately most of the time the angle is not correct. And in English the angle is opposite to the Arabic calligraphy pens because you write from left to right. So the angle is cut the other way opposite, so you cannot write with it. So what I do, if it's a straight square angle, I have to hold the pen straight like this to be able to do some calligraphy. So the pen is important, the angle is important, the paper is important, and then to know the rules, measurements, and then you need to have artistic. And that's what differentiates between somebody who becomes professional artistic because you have an artistic genes or talent versus a person who doesn't reach that stage. So this is written on plastic bags, and we do it on black and white, and then they take it to silk screen and they can make big size, its own size, or black and white colors. So we wrote on plastic similar things. These things I did. So this is khat nasakh. This is all khat nasakh, nasakh, nasakh. Next. Again, this is up top khat ruqa. This is farisi. This is khat nasakh, nasakh. This is thuluth. See, in thuluth you can make logos, you can make tarakib, structures. Next. This is one of mine. I went into a contest. This is diwani. This is khat thuluth. And that's my signature if you don't believe me. So this is khat. This lawha is an imitation of Hamid al-Amidi. It's called Jala Diwani, which is a type of Diwani. Again, we'll see more, but unfortunately the reflection of light didn't show it. And I got the first prize for this in 1979. No, 1987 in Kuwait. The university, and there was the 5th Islamic conference in Kuwait, and they had a calligraphy contest. If you go next slide. And so I got the first prize on that. Next. When I was on call during the back in Kuwait, it's not very busy, and we always had a blackboard where we meet the physicians. So I started writing some ayat, making tarakib. So this is nasakh, but tarakib you have to use khat al-thuluth, or sometimes in diwani you can make tarakib, or jala diwani, where you can mix things and give it really a nice artistic. So this is the shape of a square. It says here al-khat arq al-funun, that calligraphy is the finest art. Bias. Next one. Let's go back. This ayah is رب أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي. See, I'm not really very professional. It's crowded there, less crowded here. That's negative. A really high caliber calligrapher will make it all the same business. Just giving you. Next. This is one of my senior surgeons. And again, خط النسخ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الله تعالى, this is رقعة. وإن تعدوا نعمة الله لا تحصوها. ثلث. Yeah, again Turkey. This is during the wartime when Saddam Hussein invaded Iraq. After 7 o'clock, it was curfew, so we were in the hospitals doing nothing. So I wrote, this is in the ICU. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم those لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. Don't be despair from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the ICU, and they told me it's still there. It's almost 21 years now. It's the shape of a mosque or masjid. So you have to next. And then you can write on marble. In fact, this is my uncle when he passed away. Writing on marble is again different art. Writing on marble, you have to put a sticky plastic on it, write the handwriting, then cut it with a knife. And then you build a ridge here, and then you put hydrochloric acid on it. Hydrochloric acid will eat the marble. Only the areas where you cut the plastic, اللي هو مس الجلاد تبع الكتب. You know, that plastic that we used to for books. No, not cellophane. The sticky. What do you go for books? You put it outside the book. It sticks outside to protect the book. Yeah. So and you cut it, and then depends on how long you keep it. It will be the grooving in the marble. Then you wash it out with water, let it dry, and then you spray it with whatever color you want. You can spray different colors, one color, and then you take the plastic out. And then this is why you see it grooved, or what do you call it in English? Engraved. Thank you. Yeah, that's the word. Next. Unfortunately, I scanned the picture on a scanner, and some of the picture I couldn't make them longitudinal without cutting off. I also wrote on plastic. This sign is 6.5 meters long. Yani how many feet? 18. Yeah, so 20 feet long. It's our grocery shop in our building. He wanted to change it. In fact, I did 3 for him, and my brother put it together. This eventually was on a light box, but see how big you have to write it on books. This is khat nasakh, but we call it khat mastara. Like we put a ruler, and this is how you write it, and I can show you that also. Next. This is just to give you an example about the different types. Each one of the famous calligraphers writes sort of a page like this. It has a special name, where he tried to use all different styles of calligraphy in one page. So up there is khat ثلث. There ولا تنازعوا. Style, type. ثلث. This one نسخ. This one فارسي. الفارسي خط جميل انسيابي. But see you have to make this thin, wide, thin. So this is why sometimes people recommend to use 2 type of tips. One is 1/3 the other. Unless you are professional, like I use 1 tip. By moving your hand, you can make like this. I love to write al-ha. Because it is written in 1 pen, but see how thin it is and see how thick it is. So you really have to maneuver your hand. And this is khat. Nah. Anything goes like this, like snakes, is diwani. Okay, and I don't think he wrote khat ruqa. There is no ruqa here. There is no ruqa. This is rayhani, which is a branch of thuluth. Anyhow, okay, next. So as I told you, Medical Students Association approached me to do a course in 1987. Is it 87? I think. I'll check the date. 1986, well, yeah. So I went to spend a whole month to write a handbook. In fact, the original one which I have is colored. This is a copy. This is why in black and white you can flip through it at the end. But I don't think there is anyone like this in the market right now, because it really teaches you. We can go next. It really teaches you how to start the letter from the beginning. Most of these educational, what we call it, notes or amshaq, we call it mashq, it just writes the letter for you and the measurements. It doesn't tell you how to start, right? By drawing al-hilya, then al-asa, then al-kasa, we call it. It's in English, probably I need to translate it when we start our course. How do you write the meme? Okay, this is called the meme al-khinjariya, because like a dagger. This is called al-mim al-alifiyya, because this is like an alif if you put it outside, or mim al-lamiyya, because if you put this and that and you flip it, it becomes like a lamb. So they have noon. Where do you put the dot when you write the noon? The meeting of these two lines, this is where you put the dot. So there are rules. It's not like haphazard. And who put these rules? Al-Wazir Muhammad ibn Mukhla, that we mentioned his story. Inshallah, I will mention the story again, and it's a very قصة مؤثرة, very nice story. Next. And as I said, how do we master Arabic calligraphy? We talked about it. The angle, the measurements, and give you example of this. The thickness of your pen will determine the size of the letter. See, an alif is determined by 4 square dots in nasikh. In thuluth, it's 1 1/4 is the dot, and it's 7 to 9 dots. This is why in khatt al-thuluth it's a long alif. بينما in khatt al-nasikh is 4. In diwani is 5. In ruqa it's 3. And it's 3/4 of a dot. So there are measurements. And measurements initially helps you to get used to it, but after that, when I write now, I don't measure. But if you measure it, it will be accurate, and I'll show you that. So this is a bigger pen, wider pen. 4 dots, Ar-Rahman, 4 dots. But this is smaller because the size or the width of the pen is low. And we have 3 main lines. The main line is called Khatt al-Kitaba, and I'll show you that I've had it there so when we write. And that's the writing line. This is where most of the handwriting is going to be on. And then we have Khatt al-Kasat, cups. So if you have Noon, Sad, Ra, Sin, all these, Lam, and then you have Al-Hal, Kha, but they will go below that. And then you have Khatt al-Alifat. This is where the alif ends. Alif, al-Mad alif. Al-Lam has what we call Hilya, so it goes like half a dot above that. It's a science. Next slide. These are the next 3 slides. Just shows you how these are one of the oldest handwriting discovered, and they have names we don't have time to discover. Next one, same thing. This next one, but these are icon findings that taught us where the Arabic calligraphy came from. Yeah, we mentioned lots. Hieroglyphy is one of the stories. Next. Okay, I'm going to give you now. These are not my handwriting. These are professional calligraphers. And just enjoy the beauty of this. What handwriting is this?
Farisi.
Farisi. Very good. And see seal width. This is who invented that? This is Nasr min Allahi wa Fathun Qareeb. Ahsant. The Persians. Next. This is another. So let's see. I have to come here. So the one in the top is no. See, it's angles, all angles. The first one, this one. Yeah, this one is Kufi. Anything that's like angles is Kufi. This one, Naskh. This one, when you see it together like this is Thuluth. This one, Farisi. When you see thin line and it looks easy handwriting, but probably this is the most difficult one to write. Yeah. This one, Ruqa. See, you're cheating, guys. That's fine. What about this one? When you see snakes, we said Diwani. This is how it was written. And who invented Diwani? Atrak. And who invented the Ruqa? Al-Atrak. Atrak, yeah. This is called Diwani al-Jali, or al-Jala Diwani. Like it's a subtype, don't worry about it. Or al-Ijaza, sorry, which is subtype of Thuluth. Al-Jala Diwani is down here.
How about the Urdu?
Al-Urdu, mainly Persian. They use Persian, yeah. Urdu, Indian, Afghani, Pakistani, and Persian, they use, yeah. Next, please. Okay, what do you see here? Angles. La. Ruqa is the simplest, easiest handwriting. You cannot make stuff like this from it. Kufi. This thing, anybody can write it, because you bring a ruler and you get the square or circle, and this is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, repeated each quarter, and they all meet. But all see angles. Anybody can write Kufi. You don't need to be an artist. And then we'll show you other examples. Next. Yeah, see, people started giving it some ornamentations, sort of a flower or leaves, and they became Qayrawani and Rihani and Andalusi and whatever everybody had. But it's still Kufi. See, angles. I love this hat. I wrote several of them. I don't have any pictures. This one. Angles. Yeah, Kufi. And so then they started filling the spaces with these ornamentations to to give it, yeah. And this became what? Ahmed, al-Baghdadi, probably Rayhani, whatever one of these names. There are lots of names. Next. What about this one? Kufi, angles, see? And you can do whatever you want, but you are preserving. Bismillahi ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. There is no dots. Okay? Yani if you have a graph paper, you know graph paper, اللي هي مربعات كلها, you can write Kufi. Easy, just follow the graph paper. What about this? When you see a tarakir like this, it's called Khatt al-Fakhama, the style of elegancy. And who wrote this? Hamid al-Amidi, one of the most, I consider him one of the best calligraphers in this century. He died in 1982, Turkish guy. I have his mashq here. This one?
Same thing.
Yeah, thuluth. This is only done in thuluth. This type of hilya is done in thuluth. This is, what type of this? Thuluth. What about this? Thuluth. Yeah. Next one. This is very famous Ayat al-Kursi, very famous, written by Hamid al-Amidi. You really have to be a calligrapher to really enjoy this, because if you look at the spacing of the words, is amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, this guy is amazing, Hamid al-Amidi. This was his profession. He didn't have any other job. He was a calligrapher, and he wrote really very nice thing. Unfortunately, the picture is not a good resolution, because there should be empty these. وهو العلي العظيم. MashaAllah. But when Turkey turned down this noble art, they started using Latin. That's art. Yeah, Ataturk. That art died. They were the top calligraphers the last century. Who can read this? وما توفيقي. What type?
This is Thuluthi.
Thuluth. Who wrote it? Husni, the father of Saad Husni and Najat Saghira. Yeah, he was a calligrapher. But see, before he writes it, he shows you how did he start. You picture the words in your hand. Al-alifat and al-kasat is the one you need to distribute them well. And then he puts the design for it, and then he starts writing it. So you have to space it well, so it's not crowded in one area and empty in one area. Next. Now everybody knows this is Khatt.
Khatt al-Thuluthi.
We have Turkish person here, so you heard me. فخط amazing, والله. You just want to stand there and ولله على الناس حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صدق الله العظيم. Who wrote it? I can find out. It's amazing. The spacing. Look at the spacing. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah. I don't have my glasses. We need to pull this down. We'll find out. It's not important. They are all, mashallah, yani, excellent calligraphers. Next one. Again. Yeah. Rabbi Shahsi. Amazing. Wow. But then these are harakat. Fatha sukun. Shadda. But these are called hilya, mizan. These are hilya, yani ornamentation, makes it look nice, and you fill the spaces. So when you look at it, it looks like a block. Okay, I'm going to repeat قصة الوزير محمد المقري because there are a lot of people who were late. Next, please. This is Hamid again. This is Jala Diwani. It's, as we said, subtype of Diwani. We said the Diwani is like snakes. You can tell. The same. See, these are the two styles where you can make structures or complex structures is thuluth and Diwani or Jala Diwani. And then you fill the spaces with dots. So it makes it like a solid. And that's very characteristic, where 1 or 2 is almost empty. Next. Just, as I said, we cannot learn calligraphy in 45 minutes. الانيشال تنقيط عشان كحركات was we mentioned that in the Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali promoted by Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he was one of the early calligraphers. And then, these were like haraka, I. And then they have to differentiate to the letters during al-Abbasiyin, during al-Umayyin. فthey added, they had to differentiate between ba, ta, ya, tha. They added the nuqat to differentiate. But then they got mixed. What do we do? How do we differentiate between fatha and nuqat? For the dots to differentiate the letter were close to the letter, and the others were in a different color. But that's not practical. You have to have 2 different colors to write. So Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad, he asked, the name is different, but Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad is the one who added al-nuqat, he changed it to al-harakat, al-fatha wal-dhamma wal-kasra. And we mentioned that in the lecture. Yeah. And I'm just going to give you example. For example, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, nice, but this is not related to any calligraphy. It's close to nasikh. But we will write inshallah Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm not trying to make fun, but no, I'm not. I want you to. Okay, I have 2 different sizes of pens. فعندنا احنا خط الكتابة, and this is nasikh, خط الكتابة, which is the main. This is where all the handwriting is going to be happening. And then we have خط الكاسات. So if I'm writing with a smaller pen, خط الكاسات is going to be 2 dots. I'm sorry if you can come here. Then I have to write from right to left. Then it's 2 full square knots. So when you do like this, then where's my ruler? Then that will be خط الكاسات. Okay, and then we have to have another line. It's called خط الألفات, alif line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Initially, you have to do this when you are learning calligraphy. So let's pick up something. Ar-Rahman, because it has a kasa and there is alifat. So we write Ar-Rahman. See, you have to move your hand to get this tapered end. There are 2 moves when we do the course that you need to learn. And then Lam, it should start like Alif. But it has what we call Hilya. So it's like half or 1 dot above the Khat al-Kitab. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Ra. And then Al-Ha goes up. So Al-Mim will be on Khat al-Kitaba. And then in Noon you can write it as regular Noon and ends there. And the dot, as we mentioned before, will be at the end of this 2 lines. So this is where you put the dot in nasikh. In Farisi, on the Ruq'a, it's in the middle of that kasa. But this is where you put it in. So that's Ar-Rahman. So this is called Khatt al-Kasat, Khatt al-Alifat. You have to do this initially when you are writing. Or you can write a kashida, yani meme. That's called kashida. But we'll learn that in the course. Now, if I'm going to use a bigger pen, I hope I brought a bigger pen, which the angle is not good for nasikh. This is good for ruqa. And amaraj is ruqa. But we buy them, we don't make these ones. Now look the difference. It's going to be square knots. So 1, 2. Look at khatt al-kasat. It's like double that one. Okay? And al-alifat will be 1, 2, 3, 4. By the way, الحاء is 4 dots. There are measurements for this. This is 2.5. So again, if we write Ar-Rahman, Alif, but it's not as nice as this because the angle is not good. But I'm just going to show you the difference. Hilya, Ra, you can finish it up. Running out. See, I don't measure, but if you measure this, 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4. Later on, you don't need to measure once you learn it. This one is good for خط النسخ, for خط الرقعة or ديواني. So if when I write Ar-Rahman in the Ruq'a, Dr. Saman, don't worry, I had double paper so I don't mess up the thing. The Ruq'a all stays, has to end on خط الكتابة. And it's 3 dots. See, the alif is shorter than this. Ar-Rahman. See, that's Ruq'a. It's the easiest and fastest handwriting. Ar-Rahman. Again, writing, this is not the best paper, this is not the best pen.
I saw your production.
Yeah.
The best now.
What else? Let's write, for example, Diwani, Ar-Rahman. You said, once you say anything like snakes, this is Diwani. Sorry, here because the paper is Diwani. If you want to write Farisi, the Farisi also the Farisi is the only handwriting that tilts to the right a little bit. Every style is tilted a little bit to the left side. If you see here, it's tilted to the left side, except Al-Farisi is the opposite. So you write it like this. See, sometimes you have to use the other angle. And then dot in the middle, not like خط النسخ on the top of this. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Thuluth, just to see the difference, if I use here, the alif will be probably this is the size of the alif. See the difference, thuluth and nasakh, same pen. Yeah. Anyhow, it becomes bigger and you can make تشكيلات. In summary, as we said, let's mention the story of Abdullah ibn Muqla. We mentioned the story, and this is in fact the person, they call it the ultimate or the kahuna engineer of Arabic calligraphy. He's the one who put خط النسخ in its final shape and measurements and all of that. And he was a wazir to 3 Khulafa Abbasiyin. And during the 3rd one, and he wrote the Quran with his hand twice, plus other books. And somebody did a wishaya against him and accused him of being a betrayal. And he was sentenced to, he was put in jail, they cut his hand, they cut his tongue. So he was crying in jail, saying the hand that wrote the book of Allah is being cut like the hand of a thief. And he died in jail, 56 years old, 58 years old. So that's Abu Ali Muhammad ibn Muqla. Al-Khattat al-Wazir, they call it. Al-Khattat al-Wazir. لأنه اتهموه إنه كتب أشياء ضد الحكم, ضد الخليفة, against the caliph. نعم.
Same as like Ali Farzad, the one.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, Ali Farzad is a cartoonist. Yeah. فأقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم جزاكم الله خير. I hope we added something.